Now, the next section that we want to talk about, it's in your, is understanding the architectural place. And we visit this twice. We visit this at the front of the class and we visit this at the end of the class. So I'm going to present it in really two different ways. If I can find my eraser. Aha. Ooh, it's a new one. It's really cool. So let's just talk about the architectures. When's an architecture matter to a customer? It's a great word. Architecture is a great word for Cisco. When does an architecture matter to a customer? Yeah. Excuse me?
For making efficiencies.
Making efficiencies, yeah. Implementing applications, yeah. It sounds kind of silly, but it only matters when it matters. Because to anything else, an architecture, what do you think a customer hears sometimes, if not put in context? What does a customer hear when they hear architecture?
Strategy, roadmap.
Roadmap, strategy. How about land grab? Expensive. Think they hear expensive sometimes? If we don't put it in context, especially IT, right? IT may not want to put all their eggs in a Cisco basket. You've all heard about ABC customers. What's an ABC customer? Anything but Cisco. There's a lot of those out there. There's a lot of reasons for those to be out there, both Cisco initiated and customer personal preference. I come from North Carolina, and we have a lot of college basketball teams in one small area. ABC to me was anybody but Carolina, because the University of North Carolina has a basketball team. There's Duke University and NC State. It used to be ABC was anybody but Carolina. But it could be anybody but Cisco. There are customers who have that religious layer that they have, that they may not see value in it. Most of those people are going to be in IT. Because think about it. Realistically, an architecture is only important if you're talking about long-term strategy. Do you think IT thinks long-term? Does IT think long-term? Show you something that a very, very, very smart sales guy told me. One of the guys that I'd work with anytime. He said, Eddie, there's a hierarchy inside organizations. He said, there's the doers. And this is including IT. This is where IT lives. And again, I used to be one of these. These people look very narrowly at the future. TGIF and Hump Day. Hump Day is Wednesday. God, I got halfway through the week. TGIF, weekends on me. I don't have to come in tomorrow. I can sleep late or do whatever I want to do up to the wee hours of the morning. These are the people that are in IT. They don't bring a lot of value day to day, project to project. This little task to little task. And then you'll get up here into management. When you start in management, whether it's in IT or anything else, and you're looking project to project, they can see a little further out. Maybe, this cycle, this project longer term, what's it going to do for us in 3 months, 6 months, this, that, and the other. But not very strategic, right? But they do have operational. Operational is really important to them. Those people, whether it be inside of IT or outside of IT, can actually help us an awful lot. But an architecture really doesn't matter to them too much. Now, we do have parts of our architecture I think can bring value to these if positioned correctly. But then when you have up here and you get up into director level and all this, these are the people who are looking out 1 year. They're more strategic. Architectures may matter there. Inside of IT, who directly reports to this? Maybe the architects. And a lot of organizations now, they've outsourced a lot of the day-to-day, and they might have people who are in charge of specific technologies, architects, who actually have to look long-term. Because this is where business and IT actually probably meet most of the time. This person actually knows the business leaders' names, what their function is, and all that. This might be the place, and depending on the size of the organization. Then when you get up here to VP, senior VP, CX level, CXO. These people are looking long-term strategies and goals. And what do they care about? What are some of the words that you might use to describe these people? What are things that are on their mind? Money. So bottom line, top line, right? Revenue, right? A VP of sales, you think he cares about? Oh, yes. And you know what? He's a great person to talk to because technology might be able to increase his sales. And you know what? He's got the clout to be able to, guess what? Say, I want this solution for my salespeople. I don't care how much you don't have money for. I'll take more quota on if I really believe that in order to drive that revenue. He can create budget. That's the good people. And he may even think of an architecture as something that moving forward because he's looking 2-3 years down the road. He actually is. CFOs, right? What are they cared about? Brand, bottom line. CEOs, brand. That's all they care about, right? They're the people who care about these things that are looking out into the future. And that's where an architecture really matters. Because if not, it's a bunch of parts. It's a big part list and it's a land grab for a lot of the people that are out there. But I think if we think about how we position to our customers and who we're talking to and what terms we're using, we can't use Cisco E's terms. Cisco E's terms only works there. It only works there. Some of the best sales in the world have happened with people not even saying the word router, switch, anything. It's talking about video. It's talking about mobility. It's talking about growth. It's talking about this, that, and the other. Those are the things that these people care about. So you have to use the term architect. It does matter up here. We can make it matter and differentiate ourselves because we are the only person who has these architectures, but we have to put it into places where it really matters. So let's talk about our architectures. We have 3 major architectures that we'll talk about. Cisco actually has a couple of other ones, and I'll just briefly go over. But let's just think about the first architecture, the borderless networking architecture. What's that? What kind of mindset is borderless network? Wow, borderless network. That's different. It's totally revolutionary for IT. Scares the crap out of them. It really does scare them. What do you think is into borderless networking? Our routers, our switches, our wireless LAN, our security, right? Application acceleration, things like that. The fundamentals that you build your house on. You build your house on. And again, that's our core products, folks. That's where our biggest revenue stream comes from. Absolutely. That's the only reason we did IP telephony when we started. Why did we start selling IP telephony? To sell more routers and switches. Because customers were using hubs and had routers in there that they'd buy switches and routers that they wouldn't have replaced for 7 years. We were killing things with bandwidth. Until, because all applications were just big fat pipes. We needed to differentiate those pipes. So we put voice on there, so we had to. The other next architecture is collaboration. And again, Cisco started this back in 1997. We didn't call it collaboration then. It's gone from IP telephony to unified communications to collaboration. That's the 3 steps of this. We call it collaboration. But we started this back in the mid-90s as a vision. No products to deliver. We had a lot of acquisitions between then and including Celsius, a lot of our routing capabilities and all this to connect us up. But our collaboration is really our communications manager, our video solutions, things like that go in here. It actually changed the way people communicate. Of all the architectures, I might be a little biased, and I am. This is do customers know what switches and routers they're using? Does the average Joe knows that? No. But if I can change the way they can communicate, I change everybody in the organization's way of doing business. If we're talking about BYOD and all this, that, and the other, what do you want to do with these devices? You don't just want to surf the web. You want to be able to communicate with them. You want to have instant access to experts. Things like social. You think social, where does social play? Does it play in IT or does it play in the business? Yeah. We have a person here for marketing. Do you think marketing cares about how a customer can, the opinion of a customer, how fast it can spread? It's like wildfire. Yeah. Do you think Emily cares about social? You want to, Emily's not going to sit through training classes. She's going to learn totally different ways. And she wants to team with people and all this and be able to use a Facebook type interface to be able to access information and experts and all this, that, and the other. That's the social aspects to connect all of our collaboration solutions. And that's innovative. And that's something that the higher ups in the organization certainly are thinking about today. Because there's a lot of baby boomers, the people who are my age and a little bit older, getting out of. There's a lot of information that's going to walk out the door with these people. How's Emily going to get it? We better figure out some way to get that. We better. Do you think IT's worried about that? Absolutely not. They're not addressing that. But HR might be. Sales. People who worry about that, the continuance of their business, looking 3 years out. Absolutely they care. And data center virtualization. Cisco sells servers now. We sell the Nexus switching solution. We sell the ability to take 16 data centers and make them look like one for a customer. This is where we've made so much great revenue in the last few years. Why? Because we grew stupid for 15 years and now we're cleaning it up. We finally got the technologies to clean up data center and virtualize servers with all these multi-core processors and all this. And Cisco's invested a ton of acquisitions and money in there, and we'll talk about that tomorrow afternoon, about all the parts and process and why we're doing that and everything. Huge. But again, I'm going to go back to, does the average user, does an administrative assistant or somebody who's doing data input know they're running on a virtualized server or a... No. They don't know. Collaboration drags all this. I really believe collaboration drags a lot of this. It drags so much of it. Initially, it was 6-to-1. When we first started selling IP telephony, it was for every $1 that they bought in phones and servers and everything, it was $6 of switching and routing. Why? Because customers had to, in essence, gut their infrastructure to get it. But there was value there because, heck, Cisco went from being 0% to 35%. In a matter of about 7 years of all installation of telephony. So obviously there was some value there. Now with this, does it matter? When I show you how many applications you have here, you daggone right it matters. Customers have that time to deploy, time to access that information. That's really important to them. And Cisco's done as much there as they have in any one of these in a very, very short period of time. We'll talk about the value that Cisco, the investment they made here and the value it brought back, return on investment for the customers and the technologies. A lot of standards, new standards and new ways of doing things there from a Cisco perspective. These three architectures intersect. Who else can do this?
Do you believe that these three circles are that closely integrated?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So let's just think about this. Let's think about video. Video. If I just talk about video for a customer, and again, I don't know if there's anybody former Tamberg or people who used to sell Tamberg. What did video do to a network? It was sold as a business decision maker. He said, do it. What did the IT say? Holy moly, we're dead. It takes a lot of infrastructure to make that work. You can't kill it with bandwidth. You've got to have certain bridges. You have to have a lot of infrastructure in there to do that and all this. And guess what? Now that we start using video, we're going to start taping it and everything else. We're going to start accessing that. The requirements for this are a lot of servers that we'll want to easily deploy. And if we're loading our whole business model on that, we make sure those servers have to be up all the time. It's got to be easy to deploy and scalable. Guess what? We can do it in this. Anything that you talk about there is going to leverage across all of these. Mobility. Mobility. What do you want to do with those iPads and iPhones and Android devices and all this? You want to collaborate. You really want to do that, right? You might have to virtualize some of that stuff because you can't, iPad, you can't run a Windows desktop on it. But if I do Citrix or VMware, guess what? I can run all my applications on, and that's got a big requirement for these, right? But it also means that I have to worry about the collaboration aspect. We have a whole architecture, VXI, that we'll talk about that covers all three of these. Every one of those. Is that a differentiator for Cisco? Certainly is. Who else can do this? What one company can do this? Nobody can. Only Cisco. Only Cisco. Now for the service providers, we have a service provider architecture out here that kind of addresses some of this stuff as far as they do. And again, I can't remember all the, we have video in here, right? We have a video strategy there. Application services where they can actually host applications. That IP core that actually drove ATM out of the world and allows people, our mobility, a wireless strategy around that. Being able to make money on that. Again, AT&T. AT&T had a funny thing. I got to do some consulting back into Cisco, and I talked to one of the leaders of the AT&T accounts at the time, and he said he was addressed by one of the senior people at AT&T, and he says he has a problem. Think about this if you're a business leader, if this problem was yours. I've got a 60-33 problem. What's that mean? He says, on the edge of my network, because of all these wireless devices, I'm having to grow devices on the edge of my network for this mobility and everything 60%. Everybody's getting these smartphones and all this, that, and the other. 60%, so I have to grow that access to my network 60% annually. I've got to grow my IP core. It's something I thought I wasn't going to have to grow. There's plenty of it. I have to grow that 30% now because everybody's wanting to use all this stuff. I make a 3% profit margin. Figure that out. That's hard. That's a bad place to be in a business. This strategy allows them to maybe take advantage of some of this stuff, maybe use their network. If we could cut this down to a 50-25-4, we'd be better off for AT&T than anybody else. Yeah. And that's what our architecture is designed to do. All interoperate and work with that. We also have another architecture out here for our commercial, right? For the low end, small, medium business. Being able to give a quick deployment, to ease of operations, to take a customer from just, hey, I'm a small customer, I can't have that. Guess what? Small customers want that stuff too. They just don't have the margin of error that the larger customers do. And we've got a whole strategy around that in the SMB space. That's an architecture. We'll focus more on this. But the architectures are a differentiator for Cisco. Probably our largest. Probably bring the greatest value if used appropriately at the right place. Going to IT with this, they don't care. They don't care. We're expensive. For them, we're expensive. That's what they see Cisco. Yeah, they might like it. I mean, it's great if they got CCIEs everywhere and all that because those people want to continue their investment in their education and get their pay. Absolutely. But the architectures really matter to the business leaders for flexibility for the business. Because these waves are happening faster and faster, these changes. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now. And from where we started to where we're at today, it's just, I've got to a point where I just know that I'm eventually going to get washed out to sea or something because I don't know if I can keep up with it. It's changing so fast. It really is. Think about that as a business. That's why people are talking about cloud. That's why people are talking about cloud. So what have we got in here? Cloud. Cloud offerings. We're helping these people with cloud. This same data center strategy that works here actually works for them. Actually works for them, so now they can host stuff. Our HCS solution there is actually every component that we will talk about in collaboration. It's actually the same components, except one. We have a better management tool that can manage multiple customers. But it's the exact same products for this guy, so he can actually get a new revenue stream. It's proof that our architecture from an enterprise and a consumer business standpoint actually works and scales. So our architectures are unique to us. And we have to leverage those. We have to leverage those across the board. But it only matters when we can make it matter from a business standpoint to the business leaders. We can go in and tout it and show it. You know, we have more part numbers than Walmart. We really do. We have more part numbers than Walmart. So the next time you go into Walmart and you see all that big store and all that, think about all the things Cisco has. We have SKUs for everything. We have SKUs for everything. For every product, we have probably 40 SKUs for a product, minimum. Yeah, services SKU and all that, absolutely, absolutely. So we've got a lot of part numbers and everything. It only matters when it matters from a customer perspective. So we'll revisit this and talk about it a little more in depth maybe after we cover some of the technologies. So going back to, yes.
Quick question, because
Yes.
having come from Microsoft, right?
Mm-hmm.
What, if we've got it all, and it's that well integrated, right? Which I agree, that's why I'm here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. Why is Microsoft such a big threat?
Well, Microsoft is a threat to Cisco in a lot of different ways. I think Microsoft's, you know, they're on the desktop. They own the desktop. Now, I think the desktop is changing. PC sales have gone down, the use of their devices and all that. But Cisco sees that if they own the desktop and they can own call control, which they don't have today, but they will eventually have, then they will erode our market completely. And again, stop driving the sales of the real reason that we did IP telephony, dragging, switching, routing, and the infrastructure with it. That's what it is. It's protecting their core. Microsoft is going to voice, video, and all that to protect their desktop and their core. Cisco is trying to defend it because that's what drug our core with us. That's how we keep our market share, the intelligent networking. Microsoft says, hey, listen, go Juniper routing, HP switching, somebody else's wireless, whatever this, that, and the other, hodgepodge your network, and use us, and it's free.
But isn't Microsoft a big threat only on the collaboration architecture?
Excuse me?
Isn't Microsoft supposed to be a big threat only from the collaboration perspective?
I think it's threatening our core products. Because think about it, if Microsoft, the person that you trusted to do all your collaboration says, it really doesn't matter if you use an HP switch or any base switch. Go get a D-Link. Doesn't matter to us because Microsoft doesn't see the value of the network. They're a software company, right?
The threat is more on the application side because customers don't care about architectures. So they look at what Microsoft can deliver as applications, which is the desktop apps or the collaboration apps and the link application itself.
Yeah.
So this is what the customer sees at the end of the day as a core product.
Absolutely. I think Microsoft, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, I think Microsoft sees our social platform as the biggest threat to them. Because guess what? People are not going to look at a Microsoft screen. They're actually going to use Microsoft as a portal on somebody else's screen.
No, I think they see the voice as the biggest threat. The voice and the video.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
That's why I wanted your input.
Yeah.
It's important that we talk about collaboration, not about the architecture.
Right.
Like to the business.
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
That's where,
Absolutely.
That's where they're gaining ground.
oh yeah, absolutely. And again, it's perceived free, and it's not. Link is not free, by the way. And they're, you don't get everything free with Microsoft. There's nothing free in the world. I said that earlier. Maybe my dog's love is free, and at least I have to feed him, so maybe it's not free. But it's not free. And we have a whole classes that you'll probably see a lot of you will go to. It's called the Collaboration Sales Lab that's going out to all account teams across the world. There's actually classes for PSSs and all this that I've been working with and everything to try to start driving the messages about getting to the business. Getting to the business. Because if you don't get to the business people, you're stuck in IT. And if you're in IT, that desktop guy might have the power to say, no, we're going with Link. And I think there will be a long time of coexistence. There'll be a time of coexistence where everybody will have to. Will these two big elephants play together? I don't know. I don't know. So, Be interesting to see.